Okay, let me introduce myself again. I'm Senad Zunic from company Resonate from Tuzla. Our company is building a medical device. We are doing software development for medical device for a few years now. And the presentation is kind of aiming to students mostly. It's entry-level presentation. It's about how things change during the development of the software or any kind of device. Okay. Okay, we have technical issues. This worked like 5 minutes ago, really. Ah, okay. Debouncer then. Okay, the only constant is change. Everybody knows about this already. It's coming from the ancient Greece, and it's coming from philosopher Heraclitus. He said, no things is ever constant, everything changes. His example was, if you go in the river twice, it's always different. The river changes. You are a different person by the time you next go in the water. And that really works for everything. That works for what you see in your life, and especially that works on the software development and the processes that are linked to that. Okay. My bad, sorry. So when we want to initialize our software design and development work, in ideal scenario, we'll have a already finished, finalized customer requirements that are coming from the customer, software requirements that some engineering team already worked totally throughout, that all what you need to do. You have finalized development plan, which says who is doing what, who is your manager, who is doing whatever, and the risk analysis as well, very important. We talked about it last time. Ideally, everything is written in the stone before you start development. There's a proverb that says, walking on water is easy as long as the requirements are frozen. Perfect scenario, perfect world doesn't exist. So, in this world that we are living now, it's a fast-moving world. Most often, our device development is about making first the proof of concept or the MVP, the minimum viable product, because you're getting rounds with the venture capitalist. You need first collect data, then build algorithm. Wherever the scenario is that you're building your device on, most likely we'll start with some kind of proof of concept that needs to be in the place, shown, proven that that type of device can work in a market, and then you build on top of that. I'll take you briefly to a journey of one of the projects that our company worked on. It's roughly between 2020 and 2024. There's no short project in medical development. So the objective was pretty clear. We needed to measure patient biometrics on a couple of places on the human body, and then present the data in the time graphs, in short. So you start with the proof of concept. You need to start data collection as soon as possible, and you need to confirm that that will actually work in a field. So what you do? You start with Arduino, with the Wi-Fi. You take into account that you can connect to existing hospital Wi-Fi because it must be there, it's there. You will build a cloud app for the data collection, some API and database in the background, and then the UI with the graphs. Perfect. You test it in your laboratory, in your office, and it works. So you go to a hospital, first thing you see, it's Wi-Fi congestion. So you have like 600 different networks and more than 1,000 connected people at that very moment. So something you didn't, you couldn't officially test in your laboratory. Then there's a problem of a patient transportation. So the patient is on a bed, it gets moving, goes in the elevator, you start having data drops or data missing. Then, you know, some of the doctors or the nurses says, oh, come on, this better, I need to charge better every day. Why don't you make it better, you know, so I can charge less? And on top of that, you get the security issues. Is it HTTPS? Can you contact the network time? Can you, you know, confirm that the data that's being sent is cyber safe and so on? You say, okay, that's proof of concept. We took what the market said, we build on. It's a second iteration. You go to very powerful Texas Instruments CC3235 that has built-in storage, that has a security embedded. You cover your problems with this congestion with both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz antennas. The hospital has a Wi-Fi, that's obvious. And then you are under control of the full hardware, whatever you need. Much better than Arduino, but you know, more work. That's okay. So we fixed the security, we fixed the power management, storage issues and so on, but COVID happens, okay? So that's something you cannot plan on. Supplies get shorted, there's no way to buy chips. The only thing you can do is buy the full evaluation boards instead of chips. So you go from a couple of dollars to a couple of $100. It's, you know, kind of building the device on top of that doesn't work. And on top of that, you meet, this is a mistake, it's not the Wi-Fi coverage, we covered that. You meet IT guys from the hospitals. So the first hospital had no issues. They give you the password. You go to another hospital, the IT guy said, I'm not giving you a password, you know. And that's it. Everything falls apart. There's no way to get, for the safety of the hospital, for the security of the network of the hospital, you'll never get the Wi-Fi password. So you come back on the sketchboard again, you start writing again, whole team collects, and what we need to do, we need to build our own private network in the hospital. So there's no way we're going to drill the walls or wherever. So the easiest thing is to choose the network that can go through the walls. Okay, so it's not the Wi-Fi, we choose the LoRa. Third iteration is basically first iteration again. So we have again, Arduino LoRa's. Most requirements stay the same. Okay, you already fixed that. You know what's the expectation in the field, so the requirements stayed, hardware changed. We build our own private networks with the gateways put on, every floor had its own gateway. But some of the problems we had in the first iteration come back again. Power management, security, and so on. So from the proof of concept and Arduino, you go back to, okay, you find a new LoRa chip from Microchip. It's a WLR089. It's a great evaluation board. And you start building on top of that. So you have a private hospital. You have now a fallback of the gateways can be very smart. If you miss the internet, it has 4G. Your full hardware and protocol is under control. And that was about that. So the fifth iteration, what comes after this? When you are finished with this slide, okay. Wow. Okay, you get the fifth iteration. What you want to say, it's completely your custom hardware. COVID days are over. You can order chips. You can make your own PCBs. You submit. You get a CE. You get a CE mark. So, kind of journey of the project goes twice in iteration from the start, meeting fields, accepting change of requirement. You know, it happens. Everything happens. So briefly. We'll just see the picture of this. The Arduino already mentioned that we started with. The Texas Instruments board, awesome board, really. With the daughter board, you wanted some buttons and LEDs and stuff like that. And this is, okay. Come on, let's be here. So this is what we end up with. This is our eventual board that has, it's a custom build, it has a LoRa connection, that has all the buttons and LEDs needed that can measure patients' biometrics. And on the left-hand side, you see that at one point, some of the customers even said, can we get the LED as well? So that kind of changed as well. Things change, you need to be ready for that. As a software developer or the software architect, you must be smart about it, you need to expect it. So I'm going to have a kind of, from the experience, how to roughly organize your code in order to accept the change, accept possible issues that might come up with. Whatever I say, I need to put some disclaimers as well. I'm not aiming for or shooting at saying what's perfect, what you should do, you know, how many layers your architecture should have. It's your choice, it can be 17 if you want. I'm not suggesting any design pattern. This will avoid any mentioning of should we have real-time operating system or not, and I'm especially not saying in what language you should write. But in a rough, this really helped us in this world of change acceptance and being ready. You have a application layer, you have a service layer, and you have a platform layer. It's pretty general names. You can choose your own name. The application layer is something that most likely comes from the customer requirements. You know, the customer requirement says, I want what's that? Temperature read every 1 second, and on top of that temperature, I want specific LED to turn on and off. It's a really rough customer requirement that you put in that upper layer. Let's call it application layer. Then the services layer comes, which is coming from the technical requirement that you and your team wrote, and it's really, really specific on what sensors and peripherals you use. So I'm suggesting here you will have some kind of sensor service, UI service, timer service, and they all link to customer requirement, but they're more specific. Like I want to use that, you know, X, Y, 1, 2, 3 thermometer. I want a specific LED. The timer will use that and that counter. And then on the platform layer, the light blue thing is something that you also build. It's a kind of SPI that will use the temperature sensor, the counters needed for the timer, GPIOs needed for the LEDs. And in the bottom of that, that's where you connect to the manufacturer's libraries or SDKs or advanced software frameworks and so on. So this kind of layer is really, really linked with the performance requirements, how something fast should be, and so on. So this architecture really helped us survive what we had in this 5-year project behind us. Very distinct API between layers, and that's something you should stick to, because if something of these things changes, and you keep the APIs, it's easy plug and play for a change. So the example, and we had this, we went from the Texas Instruments evaluation board, dev board, to the microchip LoRa board. What happened here is we really reused all the services and full application layer completely. No, just take the files and put it in a new project. What you change is a platform layer, which is manufacturer chip specific, really. That's what you need to rewrite, whatever the board you choose. So you get high reuse of the code in this way. Next example would be, you get a new sensor, you know, COVID comes, you cannot order anymore XY 1, 2, 3 temperature sensor, suddenly there's only XY 1, 2, 4 sensor. So what changes? Platform layer stays the same, application layer stays the same. You just build a new service around that specific peripheral. That's it. You keep the APIs, you don't change anything. Yeah, you change, but kind of as least as possible. Then the new project. This is also kind of interesting slide. New project comes, and the new client says, okay, we have an idea of the LoRa, and you say, perfect. We have a very good experience with this specific manufacturer, with this specific chip. We can build on top of that. So the new client comes with new customer requirements, but you keep your knowledge in the application layer. Platform layer. You keep it. You just build on top of that new specifics. Most likely you will reuse even peripherals. Okay, I already know how to use that flash for the memory and so on. So the service layer depends. This kind of architecture helped us. So my message to you would be to think about it, expect a change, expect that project can go in many directions. Maybe we can put a screen as well and so on. So wait for it and it's going to happen. Be ready. Additional thing that I want to mention about this, and I kind of kill presentation, is rerun it, please. Just last slide. Is about the external libraries that you use. So I'm coming from the highly regulated field of the medical devices, and it's really important to know what's in your software. So there are many of us that use standard off-the-shelf software, just external libraries, third-party software, get on the GitHub, take somebody's code. Ooh, it works, great. The 62304, that's a medical standard for software development, says that these softwares of unknown provenance needs to be very carefully imported, and you need to be very careful on how and why you use it. So there's no way you can guarantee third-party thing unless it's certified. You need to watch for that. Is it built with the compliance and the safety standards of similar like 62304? I'm saying this because of the, especially on the Arduino things, perfect for the, but it's completely untested libraries that you take. We use the stops, it reduces development time, but it introduces risk because the safety and security, it's unknown. Be careful there. So while building the medical software, for every sub component that you use, you need to identify and analyze every single one of them. That's kind of for your knowledge. You need to say the reason why you use especially that one. You need to know its limitation. You need to know if it builds in any additional risk in your software. If it does, you need to mitigate it. So these were kind of two lessons from the project that I presented. Architecture needs to be ready. Be very careful about third-party libraries and build a secure and safe product. That's the main goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Senad. Okay, we now have about 10 minutes reserved for questions from the audience. So please raise your hand if you would like to ask the question, and our volunteer will come you with a microphone. So is there any question for Senad?
You said too many times that we are waiting. We are late 15 minutes, but there's Amar. And Professor Gogic. Yeah.
No problem, I think. Can you go to the slide where you mentioned the amount of changes required during the project when you swapping the platform?
Okay. This platforms.
Yeah. There was like 3 circles.
Yeah. No, I can't, sorry. Other question?
The question is regarding the statement. You said that the minimum change should be on a hardware layer, or on your
platform layer. Yeah.
On a platform layer. You mentioned that the minimum change should be on a platform layer. Like there was a 5% change when you swap the platform. You said you reuse the driver from when you're working with the CC and you swap to...
No, that's a full platform change. I should have said full platform change.
But you draw that there was a change, that the only...
Okay.
You reused your application layer, services.
And services,
Yeah.
exactly. When we went from Texas Instruments to Microchip,
Yeah.
and completely build a new platform layer.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
but my question is, do you think that this approach, where you keep the service as is, and you change the platform, it will work all the time? Because in some cases, like when you change the flash memory, you mentioned you had a flash memory, so I'm not, I don't have a full insight what you used, and if you swap, let's say, from 64 megabytes to something going up, that's 1 gigabit, you change the amount, the size of the sector, then you can, given the limitations of the amount of RAM that you have, that you cannot do operations fast enough and...
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, you're right. Some of those peripherals comes with the development board. So you're stuck up with whatever flash the microchip put on its own development board. So that service, that specific service needs to change, of course. But then again, at the moment of building your own custom platform, you're under control of unless we're speaking about internal memory of the MCU.
No, I'm talking about the external memory.
Yeah.
By just swapping and changing external memory, you could introduce a lot of issues that reflect on the performance. Mainly, this is for the microcontroller world.
Yeah.
Managing high capacity sectors, switching from one memory where you had a 4 kilobytes going to 256 kilobytes, which reflects in the performance. And you need to, the reason why I'm saying is that you need to entirely rewrite how you approach from service. It would be not just the driver at a lower level that you change, but also how you're capturing the data, reacting, and you need to, the end result is that you cannot do such clear separation of the services and low-level driver if you want to achieve smooth operation.
Of course, yeah, I completely agree. It's a really rough. It's not an architecture suggestion. It's a rough division.
I wish the politics like this, they immediately agree. I agree.
Yeah, you're right. It's never 3 levels. Yeah. It's more than 3 levels, and there's overlap, especially down there.
The
on
merging,
the hardware abstraction layer, whatever goes down there, it's overlaps.
The question was, that there needs to be sometime a merger of the layers, and there cannot be such a clean distinction between. It would be really beautiful, and everyone could do it. I'm happy that there is no clear merger, because we would be, you guys would be, and we guys would be out of the jobs.
Yeah. Understood.
Okay,
Understood.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have another one question.
Yeah.
Senad, thank you for the great presentation. You shared some really valuable insights and ideas and concepts, such as separation of different responsibility in layers, which should be part of any good software design. My question is, in this project, how did you handle organization of these different layers, and how you treated them as, let's call them separate software components, and how you organized your entire project to fit them?
Yeah, it was actually, it wasn't we had no operating system, so it wasn't any real-time operating system, but we had event-driven system where we build our own kind of state machine that services had their own state machine, and they were regularly updated what they needed to do. Then the application layer had a user kind of interrupt-driven state machine, and then the bottom layer just did whatever services asked for it for. So that was a event-driven kind of.
Maybe I didn't phrase my question well. So let me try it again. So we have different layers, right? And we are promoting code reusability.
Yeah.
So how do you organize those different layers in terms of software components? Do you handle them as a different software entities with, let's say, different Git repos, or they all live in the same project and you just pick what you want later on.
Okay, yeah, and I understand. Yeah, they're all in the same repository.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not. We are kind of small company. We have kind of, I can say, no issues with code sharing and peer reviewing. So yeah, it's all in the same repository. Most likely we will go with many more if we are a big team, but kind of a small project, as you can see. It smells like an Internet of Things kind of project. Measure a few things and send it, but additional layer was a medical layer, and that's why it gained complexity.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, so I have two questions, basically. I'm interested in the last slide for the certification. So when we reuse the code, which is already publicly available, you stated what we need to do, but can you provide more info, basically? What are the steps to do that? Like, especially for the medical devices. Like when we, for example, reuse, I had a dilemma, either like to use the FreeRTOS, which is not certified for the medical device use. So what it takes for us to be like to get the certification, what do we need to do? Like, or do some testing, or we can go through the documentation and then write like a document saying that we went through the risk analysis.
You kind of answered your own question. So let me just try to add a few more things. Yes, let's say FreeRTOS you use. Fortunately, it's a well-known thing, so you'll kind of have your jobs already, but more easy. You need to identify it. You need to clearly say, number one, you need to identify, I'm using this, that and that version. FreeRTOS is well documented, so during your analysis of the soap that you used, or you say which version you use, you say what are limitations of that, so you're kind of accepting the limitations of the library you used. And then you check, does that library have certificate or not? You already said that it doesn't. So you need to check residual risks with that. So are any of those limitations affect what your intended use is for that? If it does, you need to, in your own verification of the software, you need to include testing of that specific service. So you can, in your own tests, write tests for that soap. So you take responsibility for testing.
So basically, it's like only verifying that the limitations are not affecting our system, and not like possible bugs which are in the code, because we always can have bugs.
You need to do these, but you should do the others as well. You kind of, if there's any problems with that library that you know, if there's any specific things that you use from that library, my suggestion will be to include it in your own test protocols.
And the second question would be, like looking from this point, I see that you change the, when you change the architecture, you are basically writing code for the SoC and not using the microcontroller with the combination of the RF chip. So from this position, would you take the microcontroller and plus some RF chip, and take in consideration how this affects the certification for the radio modules? Like if you are changing.
Yeah. We had projects with and without. You know, it's either a SOC or it's MCU plus the radio. You need to know what your market is. You know, if it's Scandinavia, if it's Far East, you know, in Japan and South Korea has completely different radio requirements. You need to know what you're targeting. Take your experience and your knowledge from the platforms that you already know, and you kind of combine. It's project dependent, you know. But for the radio, I would start I will start first with the investigation of what certification that radio specific has, the antenna strength and so on and so on. So if at one project we needed to change the radio part only, and we had the luck that MCU was separated from that, so we just changed the module, and that's why I'm saying Far East. That project suddenly had to be sold in Japan and changed the architecture completely. But for the start, for these evaluation models, I think it's best to start with the module that combines both.
Yeah, that's basically was my question. And in regard to like we had COVID and like chips were to say not available. So from that perspective, if you have the MCU and RF chip,
double trouble, yeah.
Double trouble, but in a way that you have your presentation about the change. Would it be from your experience like more change if you have only the MCU and then you change the RF chip, because then you change the service layer, possibly only,
yeah,
or if you change the platform and then you change the driver or platform layer.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So basically, from
that point of view, it would be better that it gets separated. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just a service then. The radio part is just service. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.